Questions so far? Members and properties. Okay. Kind of flew through my notes. I'm down to, I don't know, I'm on page 6, but again, my notes may have changed slightly. If you're trying to follow along on my notes, I'm on 6, and there's a tip here that says, if your setters and getters are just really short, particularly the getter, it never changes, right? I can't remember ever writing a getter that does anything but return the corresponding member. You can put them all on the same line, including the curly brackets, save yourself a little bit of space. C# doesn't care. As long as it's one line and I can see the curly bracket at the beginning and the end, I'm cool with that. So I can do the same thing with the setter, except it has some room for validation here, so I'm going to leave that one alone. The next tip in my notes tells you how to get C# to not put the curly bracket underneath the setter. But if you've used my settings, it should already be happening, but if it's not, you can go change some things there. And then, this is maybe a page you want to bookmark, number 7. Number 7 introduces you to snippets. And that's all I'm going to do, is introduce you to snippets. Many editors, development environments like C#, like Eclipse, have built-in snippets. What snippets are predefined, or kind of like macros in Microsoft Word and Excel, they're predefined snippets, pieces, chunks of code. So if you find yourself typing the same code over and over and over again, you can define a snippet for it, save it in Visual Studio, and then invoke it using some kind of a command. There are a bunch of them that are pre-built. Once I show them to you, you can go find them and use them. I can't tell the difference. I don't use them much. I keep forgetting they're there, number one, and customizing them for me most of the time isn't real handy. But you may feel otherwise. The first snippet I want to show you creates a property. So let's try that. We're going to build the next property, and the next property is the customer first name. And my notes say to create a property using a snippet. Yeah.
Should you put like an end something on one of those brackets?
You can. Do I? No, because I immediately get a public next thing, and so I can see where the next one starts. But yes, if you want to document your end curly bracket here and here, you're welcome to. I don't. All right, so here, according to my notes, you type the keyword prop full. Oops, can't type that right. Prop full. Notice it does pop up, has a little white piece of paper on it. Never noticed that before. It tells me it's a snippet. That's nice. But then how do you invoke it? You press the tab key twice. Whoa. Cool. All right, now notice something else. Not only does it insert code for you, that better be syntactically correct, right? Because it came built in. But it's also sitting there on int waiting for you to say, what type? Notice that my data member, it's asking me for a data member here. Okay, so when you build these, I've been building data members first and then properties. Maybe you want to use this snippet to do both at the same time. Remember, there's no rule that says all your members have to be together and then all your properties have to be together. What C# is doing for me here is defining this over again. But what's cool about this, if you see, now I've probably lost it, you know. If you don't stop in the middle here, I'm going to start it again. Say prop full, tap, tap. If you don't stop in the middle, you can say, no, I don't want an integer, I want a string. And when you do that, a little later, it'll change this to a string automatically. And no, I don't want it to be called my var. And notice it changed it. I want it to be called underscore customer first name. Now I'm going to get an error when I do this, but I just want to demonstrate what happens. I press tab again, and it didn't change the property. I thought it would change that one, but notice how these match. Oh, and now you're here. What do you want to call the property? I'm sorry, it's highlighted. It's waiting for me. Customer first name. And now I'm done. Now, in my case, I'm getting errors because customer first name is redundant. At this point, let me just delete that. They're all on the same line, etc. So that creates a full property for me. What's a little goofy, it's not goofy about this snippet, is it does both. It defines a member and it defines a corresponding property. You type in 3 pieces of information, what's its type, what's the member name, what's the property name, and you're done. That's pretty cool. Now in my case, I already have my member names defined, so when it defines my member names, I got 2. I can't have that, so I deleted one. But if you were smarter than me when you created these, and if you weren't trying to instruct people on the difference between members and properties, okay, you could create both of these at the same time. And then if you wanted to, move them around, organize them however the heck you want. So let's do one more of those just to get a little practice. That's our first name. Now I need another one. So prop full, oops, tab. This is going to be for my customer last name, so it's another string, tab. It's a tab, underscore customer last name, tab, customer last name. At that point, I've given it all the information it needs. This is redundant because I have one up above, delete it, and I've got the next property. Couldn't I just cut and paste and change some of these names? Sure. Showing you a different way to do it. Can't you just type them manually? Sure. This is a nice shortcut. Again, I'm not a big user of snippets personally, but then I have 10 fingers and I know how to use all of them when I type. Some of you don't. Snippets might be easier. If you're not a fast typist, snippets can save you some time. So can cutting and pasting. John?
Do we need any validation for these strings?
We will, but for right now, all I have to do is move this down to the next line. But for right now, we don't need any. Okay. Next unit, unit 2, we'll move those down and make some room. Yes. The only fields that don't get validation are Boolean fields. Because how can you screw those up? It's either true or false, right? And syntactically, you can't put anything but true or false in a Boolean variable, so you can't screw them up. So our next properties, that whole list of mushrooms, pepperoni, sausage, onions, green peppers, they have no validation because they're Boolean properties. You can't screw them up. So they're next. But before we go there, there's another tip here. Here's another way that you can create properties using refactoring. Refactoring is a fancy name for rename everywhere. And in this case, it actually has something else. The refactor has the ability to encapsulate a field. Okay, this says right-click the member name. Oh, that's up here. So I'm going to get rid of my split, go back up to the top, and I'm ready to do size. According to my notes, if we right-click on size here, choose refactor, we can then encapsulate it. What that basically means is, make me a property for this. Let's see what happens. Click. What do you want to call the property? Nice guess. Notice it says, oh, you took the underscore lowercase size. And that's another reason we named them with underscores. Sounds good? Go. You sure? Yep. And the only downside is notice where it put it. It's right underneath. No problem. But notice again, it's got the size. It's got the right type string. I didn't have to tell it that. And then it created a getter and a setter, at least a starter for me. I can cut it from here and put it down with all my other properties. That's not bad.
How do you feel about having the class member of the property, every single time?
What Paul's saying is, do I really have to rearrange these things? Probably not. We were talking about Swift during the break, and in Swift, they've been blended together. There's no difference between properties and members. They're one and the same unless you need to split them. Okay. So do I really care if you have your members separate and then your properties? Well, for my lecture, that was necessary. Couldn't I just do a prop full and leave everything in the order they're in? Yes, you may. Okay. Or you could come up here and type all these in, and after each one, right now, do a right click, refactor, encapsulate, got the right name already, and just leave it there. Change the region name to members and properties and just leave them stacked on top of each other. I'm fine with that. It'll probably make me a little crazy this semester, but I'll get used to it. But I've already started having my members in one place and properties in another. So I'm just going to maintain that. I'm going to pause the recording now, and you can all finish doing these properties. My advice is, since we already have these, right click and move. Or if you prefer the prop full snippet and delete the excess one, do it that way. If you're not following, take a nap. We'll wake you up when we're done. Paul found a shortcut, so I'm going to right click on, let's see, NumPy's is already done, so I'm going to right click on soda, refactor, encapsulate. And what he said is if you take off the preview check here, then you just click on OK and it makes it. You don't have to worry about that second OK or apply, because we always say the same thing every time, so it'll save you just a step or two. Okay, no following along here. I've just created a new project just to show you how, if I were doing something different, if I were doing a new project with a new class, how I would go about it. So again, to add a new class to this, just go to add class, and once again I'm going to call this CLS pizza order. Automatically puts the CS on there for me, and then I want to take the CLS off the class name. And now I want to start maybe with a region that says members and properties. Pardon me? Doesn't matter, because I'm just showing you everything we've done for the last 3 hours I'm going to do in 5 minutes. Or maybe not everything, but just to give you an idea. At this point, I now want to create members and properties. So the easiest way to do it would be to do a prop full, tap, tap. First one is a date time called order date. Done. Next one, string. Oops. First name. Done.
That's definitely faster than typing.
Get the idea?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I had to explain to you members first and what they're for, and then properties. But now that you've got your head around those, they tend to always go together. Right? And John's question about what about validation, we'll add that. It's easy to add it here, right? Just press enter, move that down to the next line, carry on. Okay, so we can add that later. But this lets you this creating of members and properties is a tedious process. Imagine if I had 25 fields in here. It's 25 members, 25 properties. It's still tedious. Right? It's a whole lot better using prop full. Right? The other alternative, here's the other way, the other shortcut, and then I'm going back to our regular example again, is I could create all those private members again. Come on. Okay, and now once I've got all those done, I could right click and refactor, encapsulate, order date, done. And don't move it if you don't want to. If you're happy with it that way, I'm happy with it that way. Me personally, I don't like that blank line in between there. That makes more sense to me. Let's put a blank line there. That way I've got member property, space, member property. Remember property. That's probably what I would do. Either way. And this is tedious as well. When it's done, there is no way for me to tell how you did this. You could have typed it manually with 2 fingers. I wouldn't know, right? Doesn't matter. Paul's question of, are you good with this? Okay, now my members and properties are combined. I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Is there a way for you to do a custom snippet that you actually?
absolutely. Enjoy figuring that out. I'm not gonna take time to create your own snippets, because every time I create one, I find out it's not as useful as I thought it was gonna be. This one's kind of handy, right? But they give you snippets for if statements. All right, and if you type the right magic words, tab, then an if statement comes up with a curly brackets and it's else, and you got to fill in the breath. For me, by the time I remember the name of the snippet, I'm not saving a whole lot, because it's an if and an else and a couple of curly brackets. If it helps you and you want to use them, they're all there. There's a bunch. Loops and for each loops and all that stuff. Help yourself. Want to create your own? I don't know. We're getting there to that. You're going to be creating anything that you're going to use over and over and over again. So yes, you can, but I don't think for this class you'll need to. Okay. Nah. So now where are we? One thing to recognize, there are some read-only. You can define a read-only property. Only difference between a read-only property and a regular property is that the read-only property does not include a setter, because it's read-only, so you can't change it. It's like a constant property. Oh, wait a minute. Why would I have a constant property? You can use this, like it shows here, for order total. And you don't even have to save it in your class. You can calculate it here, and then there's a return statement that sends it to whoever wants the order total. You can actually do the calculation here. It's called a read-only property. Can't change it. You can only ask for its information. Get it. And in this case, the getter would have code in it to do the calculations for how to calculate an order total. They exist. I don't use them. If I want to calculate something, I will use a custom method, which we're getting to. This is an alternative way of doing it. What's the difference? If I use a method, when I ask for it, I have to put parentheses on it. If I use a property, I don't. Swift lets you do the same thing. We'll just leave it at that for right now, that I don't use them, but they exist. It's just another one of those decisions. Do I use properties or a custom method? That just gets complicated. We're going to go with custom methods in this class. So I'm telling you about them in case you see them. If you wish to experiment with them, you can, but it's not a requirement. Did I hit your question, Steve?
You did, because you said, I was going to ask, could you get the result of a method?
Actually, that's what methods do. They can send things back to you, get things out. So this is an alternative to a custom method. And I don't like to mix and match, but there's some logic and pretty advanced for when to use one over the other. So I'm just going to leave it for right now. I use custom methods instead. For what reason? I said for that reason. Remember, however, that other languages do not include properties. That's true. So if they don't include properties, then they don't have read-only properties. You have to use methods. So I want to get you comfortable with methods. And this is just a different technique. Good logic, Volker. Way to go. All right, here we go. What's next? Remember, there are 3 parts to our class. Members, store data. Properties, gatekeepers to get access to that data, either to change it or get it. And next, a constructor. Remember in my test thing here, and by the way, this is now legal, right? But watch what happens now when I say an order dot, please. Oh, come on. Make a liar out of me. Oh, I didn't spell it right. An order dot. Am I running? No. Do I have an error in my order? Don't see any. I don't know why.
Can you use control shift to,
What?
can you use control space?
Space? No, it's not showing me the list. I don't know why it's not showing me the list here. I must have the order under that error underneath is not what's causing the problem. I don't know why my IntelliSense isn't working. Weird. What I wanted to show you here is that we should now see in the IntelliSense all of those properties that we just defined. Even if it's a read-only property, which we're not going to use, even if it's a read-only property, it'll show up on the list. And you can use it to get it. Right? For some reason, I'm not getting that right now, so maybe because I had two projects open, let's just do this. I want to save everything, sure. You might want to save yours as well. There we go. So there's my cheese sticks and my coupon and my customer first name, and they're kind of hard to see because it's small, but they're all there. Every property that we created, that little monkey wrench is your clue that that's a property. They're all there. So now my program has access to the order date and the customer name and the coupon, and I can change them. But that coupon, that property has a type. And if I try to put a string in there, I get an error because it's not the right type. Okay, this has to be a decimal. So I have to put something in there that's compatible with a decimal. I can put a 1 in there because that's an integer. It's compatible with a decimal. Remember from last semester, the only thing that doesn't play nice with decimals are doubles. Integers are okay. So now I can change them, or I can make a string that's equal to order total or order or coupon. And concatenate to that an order's coupon value. As long as I'm concatenating, everything's cool. This is just like a variable, except it's stuck inside that order object. In order to get to any of the stuff inside, you first have to instantiate. Remember when I instantiate, using the keyword new, it takes that cookie cutter of a pizza order. Here's what a pizza order looks like. It's got all that stuff. It makes a new cookie, and now that's what, you don't mess with the cookie cutter, right? We don't eat the cookie cutter. Only use it to create new instantiations of cookies that you can then decorate in specific ways and do whatever you want to. Whenever we do a new, whenever we instantiate, it automatically invokes the constructor for that class. So I'm going back to the class now. And now underneath my region here, I might add another region. For all my constructors, because you could actually have multiples. You don't have to have constructors. You know, I mean, you do. You don't have to. You don't have to have regions. All right. That's just a way to organize your code. Volker said there's 4 chunks to a class: members, properties, constructors, methods. You create a region for those so it keeps them nice and organized. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what exactly is the region?
What does region do? This.
So you can put anything you want in the region.
You can put anything in the region. You can call the region whatever you want. That's like saying, what does a folder in Windows do? It stores other stuff, right?
Is that
This
what
just
goes-
stores other code to help you organize it and create groups of stuff.
Even without regional, it would go into your autofill box, right? Per se.
Yeah, that's got
Yeah,
nothing to do with it.
just
All this is doing is saying this bunch of code here
Oh, it's just saying.
is all part of my properties. And if I hadn't had the region there, if I'd said collapse, I would have gotten each one of the properties and they never go away. So this allows me to collapse a whole nother record.
So this is for organization. Right?
That's all it's for.
I get it.
But you can call a specific region if you want it.
No, you can't call it. You can't refer to it in code at all. It's only there for you, the maintenance
So it's just
programmer, to
for
organize your code. It's a visual thing. Yep. So now I can collapse my properties and work on my constructors and not have my screen full of properties when I'm not working with them. I saw the light bulbs, so I know you're good. Okay. Constructors, back in here. What do we do with constructors? Constructors are called or used when you instantiate an object. In other words, you use that cookie cutter to make a cookie. Right? That's when they're used. They allow you, the programmer, the developer of this class, to define what happens when we make a new one. If you don't define one, you get the standard C# behavior, which means everything is null. Numbers have garbage in them. Right. We may not want that. So we get to define it. The way you define a constructor, you start with the word public, because we want to use this for instantiation, right? So the form is saying new, build, I need the constructor, so it has to be public. So over there in my code, first thing I do, start with the word public. Then the name of the class. This is a little confusing to me sometimes, but the name of the class in this case is pizza order. Parentheses, curly brackets. And now in between here, what you should do is define the initial value that you want for every single member. If you don't, that member gets garbage or gets null or gets whatever's left, right, or whatever's in there by default. So once again, I'm going to split my screen so I can see either the properties or the members. And let me check my code here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so here I'm saying, oh, notice this one? What's the difference between these two? One's using the property. The other is using the member. They are both perfectly legal. What's the difference? This one validates first. Hey, empty string, is that good? No, might not be. I tend to go toward this. Right? Because when I'm creating something new, I might put illegal values in there, like an empty first name. Ultimately, that's not legal. So I lean toward this one. Every member, assign it an initial value. So we have a member for the order date, underscore order date. I want to set that equal to what? Today. I have a customer first name. I'm going to initialize that to the empty string. I have customer last name. Now, I'm envisioning that some of you are already having trouble keeping track. Where the heck am I? Am I in the class? Am I in the GUI? Normally, you don't do a whole lot of bouncing around. All right, so I apologize for taking you back to the GUI to see how you instantiate these things. But until I tell you about it, it's kind of hard to envision it. Normally, you as a programmer might be doing nothing but working on this class. But then how do you test it? Volker said don't write thousands of lines of code without testing them first. You got to go back to the GUI and say, instantiate this, and now try to stick the number 17 in there and see if it works. You got to test it. So they're hard to separate. And you do need to keep your head straight on, am I in the class or I am in the GUI. And later we add the data component. Eek. Where, that's why I drew that picture for you and said, this is where you do stuff. This is where you show things and get things, and this is where you validate them. And this is where you communicate to the data class when the time comes, to hopefully help you keep track of where's this stuff being done. A lot of our if you're doing complicated code, you probably should be in the business class. The GUI now is going to be relatively simple. All right, so let's do some more here. Got a customer first name, we got a size. Now, what do I want to do here? Do I want to set it to the empty string? Or do I want to set a default value? Let's do the empty string. How do I know? I ask the customer that I'm building this program for, not the pizza customer, the customer that the owner of my project. In systems analysis, those people are referred to as the owners. They own this thing. We're just building it for them. Right. We ask the owner, when a new order comes in, what size is it usually? And the answer is, could be anything. Okay, then we set it to nothing. Right, but if they say 95 or 50% of the people that come in order large pizzas, then 50% of the new orders, we could already have them set to size large and we don't have to change it. Half the time, the pizza's size is already ready to go. Just skip right over it. When you set that, when you don't, is another one of those design decisions. In this case, I've decided to set it as the empty string. Then what's next? Then we got all the toppings, okay? What should those be? False. We can't leave them blank because it's a Boolean field. It has to be true or false. I'm guessing they should be false. But again, we could ask the owner, is there one topping that everybody puts on or most people put on their pizza? If they say yes, pepperoni, then we can set it to true. And somebody would have to turn it off when the pizza shop customer says, no, I don't want pepperoni. I'm going to set them all to false. Every single, if you're going to build a constructor, remember they're optional. If you don't put them in, C# will use its default constructor. Just about every language I've used has a default constructor that sets every variable to some generic type or value, excuse me.
What is the default for Boolean?
Don't know, don't care. Because I'm not going to trust the language to it. I'm going to set it to what I want it to be. I think it's false, but I don't trust it. All right. Then we have the number of pies and soda and cheese sticks. NumPies. What do I do there?
0.
I would say 1. Most people come in and want 1 pizza, particularly since they can only order 1 of each. They can only order copies of this pizza. How many copies of this pizza do you want? I'd start at 1. Then what? Then we need soda. That's a string, so we'll empty string that one. Cheese sticks. Got 2 choices here, I think. Nope, we only have 1. 0. Though we could say everybody comes in and loves our cheese sticks, so they always order a dozen. We can make it a dozen. But I'm not going there. And finally, a coupon. What's the typical value of a coupon that somebody brings in? We'll say, nope, can't do that. 0 as well. Save it. And I have just enough time to run this with a breakpoint. In form load right here, I've instantiated a new order. So at this point, I said new pizza order, and notice the parentheses. What's inside those parentheses? Nothing. The constructor I just built has nothing in the parentheses, so this is who I'm invoking automatically. Don't let me forget, John, but let me finish this. Pizza order, nothing in the parentheses. Pizza order, nothing in the parentheses. When we come back on Thursday, we're going to start putting stuff in the parentheses. But for right now, I have a pizza order. I've instantiated it. So what I expect to be able to do is look inside there and see all the empty strings and zeros and the date and all that stuff should be done. So let's see if that happens. Okay. So now down here, it's very, very small. I apologize for those of you in the cheap seats. Very, very small. There's my pizza order. And I can start looking inside. Cheese stick, 0. Coupon, 0. Strings, false. Date. Where did I say do that? You know, if you're looking over here, if you're looking at this side of it, as a new programmer, you're going, wait a minute, where did you set the date to today? Where did you set the coupon value to? Where did that happen? Well, now as a pseudo-experienced object-oriented programmer, you're going to assume that it's done in the constructor. What if this is one of those classes you can't look inside to test it? You don't care, it's done. This is a pre-built piece of code, it's done. What if you don't like the fact that it sets it to 1 instead of 2 pies? You write your own class, you can't use mine then. Or just write code to change it. But whenever we say new, this constructor executes automatically. If it exists. If it doesn't exist, then we get the generic slop values that are usually inside there. We still get a constructor, it just doesn't do much. John?
Coupon, since it's a decimal, if you use 0M, it just still 0.
Good question. Shouldn't it be 0M? This is legal, right? Because it's taking a smaller thing. Remember that decimals are big and integers are small. We're putting a small thing into a big thing. That's legal. It does the conversion, but not bad. Just a good review from last semester. That's a decimal constant. Perfectly legal.
Is cheese sticks an integer then?
Cheese sticks is an integer, yes. You can't order half a cheese stick. All right, that's enough for today. When we come back next time, we'll build another constructor. And then we'll get into custom methods. We'll be just about done with this, which, whoa, you know what that means? Now it's time to get going on the assignment tracker if you're not already. And you're going to be doing this to the assignment tracker. If you're bored, you can start applying. So you could build the assignment class, right? You could start building it, create methods with properties. You can do that already. Maybe even create a constructor. Good plan.